Thank you so much for joining us again here on YouTube for another session from Revive. Tonight you're going to be watching Alexis Alexander give her testimony. And guys, we're so excited that you view us here, but come join us sometime live at 50 Stanford Avenue. We start every Wednesday night at 6:30. We are so excited that you're here. Please enjoy Alexis Alexander's testimony.
I said, I'm Alexis, and I teach the 11th and 12th grade girls, which I love. I never really thought that I would be able to serve in a church like this, especially when we first came to First Baptist. I never imagined that I would get to be a Sunday school teacher. But also, I'm married to Jason, and he teaches the 7th and 8th grade boys Sunday school. And we have 3 girls, so some of you may know me better by being their mom. So first of all, I just want to say that I did not want to get up here and do this. Week after week with you, I watched all the other leaders get up and share their testimony, and they did amazing. And spring break came, and I thought, I didn't have to give my testimony. Ryan didn't even ask me to. But like God does, he had other plans. And one day when I was home by myself, he told me that I had to give my story. And he told me that I had to share my story with you because my story is very different from the rest of the leaders that you heard from. My story is a little bit messy. And I've embraced that, and it's okay, because I think when in the messiness you can see how Jesus can come in and just change a life. So I'll start. I was born in Illinois. We lived there briefly, and then moved to Denver, Colorado, lived there briefly, and then moved here by the time I was 3. So this is the only home that I know. I have 2 brothers. They're younger. We're very close in age. There's 15 months between me and my first brother, and 15 months between him and my second, so we were very close growing up. Our mother, growing up, was a new believer. She had gotten saved in college. She wasn't raised in church, and so it was all kind of new for her. My father, on the other hand, was an unbeliever. At the time that we were children, he was probably what you consider an atheist. He had no belief in anything, and so to the point that my mother would kind of read her Bible in private for fear of being ridiculed by him. And the very few times we were taken to church, we got a little bit of comedic comments from him about going to church. I did go to church, however, with my friends some, so I did know that you were supposed to go to church. And around my friends, I kind of felt like I was different because I didn't go to church like they did. But when I was 8 years old, I don't know if it was my mother who took me or a friend, but I went to watch a play, and the theme was kind of like Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames kind of theme. And it painted a very vivid picture of hell. And sitting there as an 8-year-old little girl, I knew that hell was not a place that I wanted to go to. So I prayed right then and there to be saved. I prayed again when I got home, and I even shared that with my mother. And so I wholeheartedly believe at 8 years old is when I received my salvation. But because we didn't go to church and we didn't live out our faith at home, I didn't really know what that looked like. And so I never walked an aisle. I was never baptized. And quickly, that was just something that was kind of pushed to the side. Also, something that you need to know around that time is we were very poor. I didn't realize that we were poor, but now looking back, I realized how poor we were. And my mother wanted to do better for us. And so she put herself through nursing school. And so some of you who are nurses, like I was also a nurse, know that nursing school is very time consuming. And so a lot of her time went into studying and classes and things like that. Meanwhile, my dad, who worked on and off different factory jobs, he also played in a band, and he would every weekend go play in bars, and that was just something that was fairly normal to me. In fact, I was even taken into bars on rare occasion before it started to set up music equipment. And I don't know if I would say that my father was an alcoholic, but there was a heavy use of alcohol in our home. So let's see. Just because of my nature, and then because of a lot of the things that was kind of going on at home, I developed severe anxiety and OCD. My anxiety, you all know what anxiety is. It's worrying about things that you have no control over. And I would lay in bed as a child and worry about things like what would I do if my house caught on fire? And I would plan out an evacuation escape route. I mean, I was kind of crazy. And then OCD, if you don't know what it is, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. And so it's when somebody typically does things obsessively or compulsively or both to bring about some sort of calmness in them. And my obsession was cleaning. And so as a little child, I would go around the house with a broom and a dustpan, and I would make sure the floor was all swept and clean and everything had to be put away in its place. And I mean, y'all, I was really neurotic. Like, we had an area rug in our living room with the fringe on the end, and I would get down on my hands and knees and I would straighten that fringe out until it was just perfect. And it just did something for me. I don't know why. It just calmed me when seeing that rug like that. Well, it was just a few minutes, you know, somebody would walk through the living room and mess that fringe up, and so I would frantically get down on my hands and knees again, and that would go on multiple times through the course of a day. And so my parents and my brothers not really catching on to what was going on. It was just kind of a joke that I was a clean freak. So fast forward until I'm about 12, 13 years old. My mother successfully put herself through school, and she graduated. And to kind of move us out of where we were, she saved, and she saved up enough money and to put a down payment to build us our dream home. And it was a beautiful house. But with having a bigger house and new things comes work. She had to work a lot. She also worked nights. And so as a teenage girl who kind of really needed my mom at home, she was gone a lot. And that gave way to my dad, who owned his own business at the time, stayed gone, and he was still in his band, and he was very preoccupied in those things that he was doing. And so at that time in my life, there was a big lack of parental presence in my home. And my brothers took full advantage of that, and at a very young age, they started to spiral out of control with drug and alcohol abuse, which they still suffer from today. So the just uncertainty in my home led my anxiety and my OCD to get worse and worse. There was an occasion I even gave myself lung damage from inhaling too many fumes from scrubbing the carpet, like any spot I could find. So I mean, it was really excessive. But at school, I was normal. I could be okay. School was stable. I excelled at school. I made straight A's. I was in the popular crowd. I wasn't necessarily popular, but I was in the popular crowd. And so about the time I was 16, I met this really cute boy. And I just kind of fell for him. And he came from the same background that I did. He didn't go to church. He wasn't raised in church. There was a big lack of parental supervision on his part, and we just kind of fell in love with each other. Well, being 16 and being in love and lack of parental supervision, our relationship turned sexual. And by the time I was 17 years old, I became pregnant. And to be honest, before that, when I was in that relationship, because I was in love, and the world kind of almost makes it seem like it's okay if it's one person, right? And you're together and you're a couple and you're not going out and being with all these different partners. And so, to be real honest, I wasn't even really convicted of the sin that I was living in until the sin that I had hidden secretly, I thought was secretly, that we were, in private, was now about to become very, very public. And the reality of the shame and the guilt that I was going to bring my family and that I was going to do to my reputation sent me into a whole new episode of anxiety, if you could say. So we did the only thing that we knew to be okay and to correct the situation was to get married. So in October of my senior year, I was married, and I moved out of my home with my parents straight into a home where I was now a wife and a soon-to-be mother. And 2 months before I graduated high school, I had a baby girl. And so then became our life. I graduated, he went to work, we were happy. We struggled just at 17 and 19, as you would think that we would. By the time I was 19, I had my second baby girl. And so by 19 years old, we had a full-fledged family. And so I thought to myself, you know, what do you do when you have a family? You go to church, right? So we found a little church down the road from us. Jason, some of his extended family went there, and so we started attending. We started going to Sunday school, but we were practically the only young family in that church. My girls had very few other children in the church. It was just kind of one of those things that you showed up and did. And surprisingly, being married and being a mom didn't make my anxiety or my OCD any better. If you can imagine now, I had really big grown-up things to worry about. And my OCD and my want to control my environment started to spread to, I wanted to control the people in my life also. So I was probably a pretty hard person to live with because people are pretty hard to control. They have their own minds. And so by the time Bree was about to enter middle school, I realized that if we didn't do something, because we were going to church on Sunday, but we were living our life the way we wanted to all throughout the week. It didn't change anything about our lifestyle. So by the time Bree was about to enter middle school, I realized that if we did not do something, I was about to lose my girls and my family to the world. We were very worldly people, and I was very convicted of that, and I knew we had to do something. So we visited First Baptist, and I thought, there is no way Jason's going to go for this church. It's huge, and he's going to be intimidated. But we left, and he loved it as equally as I did, and we knew that that was our home. And so quickly, among attending church here, I began to see what it means to live out your faith. And I began to see, actually understand the gospel in its entirety. I began to understand that I didn't have to control things because, for one, I was never in control anyway. And I began to understand what it means to have faith and what that walk began to look like. And the more I took the focus off myself and I was able to give that to God, the more I realized, oh, I can serve and I can love other people. And all this graciousness that God has now showing me, I can show that to other people. And so as a family, I cannot explain to you how a couple of years at attending this church changed our family unspeakably. And when you look back, you can see how God has let little things happen to you for a reason that He knew something was going to happen long before you did. And all those times He was trying to let me give Him the control and to let go of some of that. I believe it was one thing that happened on March 21st, 2017. After I was coming home from Jackson, and after several frantic phone calls from Bree, my oldest daughter, and then finally one from Jason, I realized that Allie, Bree's very best friend in the whole world, was killed in a car accident on her way to our house. In one moment, I had to stop and look at my faith, and I had to face the question of, okay, all the stuff that I believe, either I'm in 100% and this is the way this is going to go, or none of it's real, and everything that I've thought's a lie. So you come face to face with that in that minute. And God gave me what I needed to walk my three girls, who loved her so very much, she was a part of our family, through the worst thing we've ever been through in our lives. And there was a couple verses that, Jesus gives us promises all in the Bible, and sometimes just to pray those promises over yourself and over your family and things is some of the best things you can do. But there were two verses in particular. John 14:27 says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." And then John 16:33 says, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." And I really just began to pray that over my family, and I cannot explain to you the peace that he gave us. It's kind of like when we go back and talk about it, the girls and I call it our heaven eyes. Like in those few weeks and months after that happened, we didn't look at this world at all like we had before. All that mattered was heaven. All that mattered was going to heaven with us and what we were doing to help get people there, and what we were doing for Jesus to be rewarded for when we got there. And so anyway, I'll just kind of wrap it up that through the time I have been able to give all this control to God, and he has, even though, yes, there's been multiple things in my life that has I've been troubled with, he has given me peace, and he's given me joy. And when we go out on our faith visits, we go through all these different steps, the F-A-I-T-H, and when we get to H, that's for heaven. And we talk about heaven, of course, is a place that we want to go when we leave this world, where we can go and live with Jesus when we're not here anymore. But we explain how heaven can also be here on earth. It can be, exactly what I'm talking about. You can have a peace. You can put your trust in him and your faith in him, and know that he is in control, and he's going to handle all situations, and he's going to bring it all for his good and for his glory. And so, anyway, I just wanted to share my story because it's a little different from some of the rest of the leaders, and just know that, even maybe you don't have the best home life, maybe your parents don't come to church with you, maybe you're stuck in a sin that's a secret sin, and the world tells you it's okay, because there's a lot of those sins that, Satan lies to us, and he gets the world on board too, and we believe for a little while that those sins are okay, until ultimately there will be a consequence for those sins. Or maybe you just have a hard time trusting that, God's got everything in control. So anyway, thank y'all for letting me share that with you.